Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dream Leapers with Harriet Cole. I'm so happy to be with you today. We have begun 2022 with a lot of energy, with a lot of hope and intention for our future. And isn't that what Dream Leapers is all about? We explore how other folks who have reached a level of success have accessed their dreams, activated them, and are making them come true. Why do we do that? So that we can be inspired to do that for ourselves. This is not a program where you sit back and go, oh, that was nice, and move on with your day. My intention in offering Dream Leapers is to find the best and brightest guests who can inspire each and every one of us to take action for ourselves. And so today is no exception. I met a young woman recently who's working on another project that I'm also working on, Kahila.com, a woman's boot camp for corporate women. And she is a powerhouse. Let me tell you about her. Here's what she says about herself. She's equal parts warm tea and Hennessy, strategist, author, and founder. She's the principal of RGLP Group LLC, the co-founder of True 3 Yoga Agency, and co-host of the Triggered AF and Got Value podcasts. Through transformative learning and development programs, she helps executives and leaders decrease burnout and disengagement, increasing impact and productivity through well-being workshops and strategic coaching programs. Now, here's the interesting thing. Alicia transformed her life from domestic violence victim to thriver, building multiple lucrative brands. That we're going to talk about. She's worked with and spoken for a myriad of organizations and leaders from the entertainment stage to the corporate boardroom. Some of them are Zendaya Coleman, my daughter's favorite, Soledad O'Brien, whom I've known forever, to UPS, Verizon, Bank of America, Vogue Italia, Essence, BuzzFeed, and more. She is truly a powerhouse, and it is my honor to invite to Dream Leapers right now, Alicia Reeves.
Hello, hello. How are you?
Oh, I'm so good. And it's the moment I met you, I said we just need to be connected. And so here we are. We're just making a circle of connection. And I think it's really wonderful that we're able to do that, Alicia. And so I'm happy to say you are a young woman who is fierce, doing your thing. Fearless is how you come across. And I think that's wonderful, especially when you tell your story. And I think for a lot of people, and I'm sure there are people listening right now who are in this space who present as strong and powerful and capable of any and everything. And then they end up in situations where that power seems to be stripped away. And you have shared publicly that you are a domestic abuse survivor. I know that people, when they see you, they go, that couldn't happen to her. When they hear you, that couldn't happen to her.
Yeah.
And so it did, and you survived. And I would love for you to tell us about that part of your story because I do know so
Yeah.
many people think, well, it happened to me, but I'm different from that person.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer in, for me, usually and many times what I've noticed is the loudest person in the room is usually the most scared person.
Mm.
And that was me. I would burst into rooms loud, full of energy, but I was so insecure, and felt so afraid of kind of my own shadow, that I wouldn't allow myself to tap into the best parts of me because there was so much fear there. And so, because of how I grew up in a super, super religious environment, but unfortunately, that environment didn't nurture me and my family. It served as an environment that caused a lot of pain. And so I felt as though I was worth less. And so I would choose partners who treated me as such. And so my ex husband wasn't my first introduction into domestic violence. It was actually my high school boyfriend. He had punched me while driving, and that was my first time that I had ever been hit
Mm.
by a man or an intimate partner. And I stayed. I stayed because I'm like, no, he loves me. He's really kind to me. He's sweet to me. He just was really upset right then. And I'm just going to, be better. Maybe not say things so loudly next time so that I won't keep having this experience. And of
So
course, having
you blamed yourself back then. As a high school student, I mean, you're a kid, you're
your
figuring out
baby.
who you are. Uh, he hit you, and somehow you turned it around in your mind to think it was your fault.
Yes, because I was
Mhm.
arguing with him. I was yelling at him. Of course, it's always usually over another person when you're young. You
Yep.
don't understand, you don't own people. So I was arguing over some girl. I don't even remember who it was. And he hauled off while I was driving and punched me. Blood, he hit me so hard, it chipped my tooth. Blood was all over the front of the dashboard. And it's, of course, getting all over my clothes because he hit me really, really hard. And
Wow.
I'm just like, how did I get here? Like, what happened?
Hmm.
It was so surreal for me because I was always that very loud, very vibrant. You were not going to tell me what to do type of
Right.
personality. And here I was in a situation where I allowed someone to take that power and then I stayed.
Mhm.
That was the kicker for me. And then after that,
Yeah.
I continued to choose partners who treated me how I felt about me. I
And
would go.
Alicia, did you tell anyone that that had happened?
So I had a girlfriend who was driving behind me and she saw me swerve because, again, I was driving. And so I had to swerve so I wouldn't hit a tree.
Wow.
And she saw me swerve and I pulled over into a parking lot really, really quickly. And she followed me because she wasn't sure what was going on. And she saw my
Mhm.
face and saw the blood. And she's like, oh no, what'd you do? And everyone in my church at that time knew that my boyfriend's father was a very abusive man. So she knew what had happened. So
But
she
but the
never
reality
told
is
me.
nobody can make you end a relationship. I don't care if it's your
Yeah.
church or your parents or
Mhm.
whatever. So you say you went on to choose unworthy partners, abusive
Yeah.
partners.
Mhm.
How did you break the cycle?
So before I married my ex-husband, I was 17 weeks pregnant the first time. We had gotten into this huge argument. I had caught him cheating, and I went to introduce myself because whenever I feel afraid, I get really jokey. I get very, very jovial because I'm afraid, so I deflect. And so I went to introduce myself, and I guess he thought I was going to harm her, and he picked me up and slammed me into the ground.
Mm.
I lost that
And you were
child 3 days
pregnant.
later. I was pregnant, 17 weeks.
Mm.
I lost that child 3 days later.
Oh.
And I was laying in the hospital, and my mother came to visit. And she whispered in my ear when he left the room, she's like, I know he hit you. Just tell me he hit you, and I'll take care of it for you. Everything in me wanted to tell her yes. However, I said, no, I can't cause you further harm because I'm making poor decisions.
And at
So
that point, were you married?
I was not married then. I
Okay.
married him afterwards
Mhm.
and had a child with him after that. My inability to know what it looks like to choose me is also why I tell women now, if you're feeling low about yourself or you haven't figured out or tapped into the essence of who you are, do not date. Do not date.
Smart. Yep.
Don't date. Figure out who you are, what you love, what ignites you, what you like, how you want to be treated, what excites you about your life. Figure out those things because you get on a different energetic wavelength, and then
Mhm.
what comes to you and what you accept is different. Because I was on such a low vibrational wavelength, I just kept getting all the humans that were still figuring themselves out, that were still tapping into their own sense of self worth and self love. And so the combination of two humans who didn't love themselves, who hadn't healed, who didn't care about themselves, literally created many fires.
Mm.
just constantly burning up, scorching the ground for wherever it was that we stood. And I sat there in the bed as I was crying, because anyone who's ever had a miscarriage or lost a child, it's not a easy process. It's
It's
painful.
so difficult. Yep.
Yes, getting that baby to pass is a painful process.
Hmm.
And so as I'm laying in the bed grieving and sad and hurt and trying to figure out how the heck did I get here again, I told myself I don't yet have it, but after this, I'm going to figure out how do I love me? Because I knew I didn't even like me. I felt I
And
was,
did he come? Did he come to the hospital and try to
he was
get
there.
back in your graces?
He was there. He was there. He took me to Jamaica to apologize, and that is how I got my daughter.
Which, of
My
course, your
12.
daughter is a blessing, but at what expense? As you're sharing this, I need to share something from my story because I think it's important to not just listen to you when something similar happened to me. When I was in college, my college boyfriend, who people thought, like now we know there's a Barack Obama, people thought this young man would be the first black president. He was smart.
Ooh,
He had so much potential, and he
charismatic.
all the things, all the things.
I know it well.
And he wooed me to become his girlfriend. And it turns out he also was there were many women who he wooed to become his
Oh
girlfriend. And
yeah.
at some point I figured it out.
Yeah.
And well, I figured it out earlier, but I would ask him and he would lie. And so then I started like my mind got crazy. I was like, but I know that you're doing this. And
Hmm.
he just convinced me somehow that he wasn't. And so at a certain point, we had broken up. I was going back to talk to him in his dorm. I didn't live in the dorm. And I saw one of the women that I suspected walking toward his room. And so I called out to her and we ended up having a conversation. She was a woman just like me, lovely, smart, beautiful. Well, we were in
Yeah.
college, uh, innocent. And it turns out she had no idea that he had a girlfriend. She thought she was his girlfriend. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was so upset. And the two of us went to his room to confront him. Dumb idea.
Very no offense.
Dumb idea. Now I know. Like anybody, look, you walk away. You don't confront anybody
Mm-mm.
for something like that. You just walk away. I didn't know. I confronted him and he picked me up, threw me across the hall, beat the crap out of me, threw me down the hall in a men's dorm. People came out of their rooms. No one lifted a finger. No one helped.
Yeah.
Not a single person. The other woman watched and didn't do or say anything.
Wow.
And what I recall, Alicia, is that it was like he had my mind. I feel like I had been entranced by this man, and my mind and soul belonged to him. I can't explain it, but I bet you know what I mean. And all of the intelligence, all anything in me that was smart and grounded went away. And by the way, I don't have the same story as you. I didn't grow up in a I didn't grow up with abuse. I thought I felt pretty good about myself. I did
Yeah.
a devastating breakup in high school with the person I thought would be my forever love, and that crushed me. But
Yeah.
who knows? I can't tell you why. But the reason that I ended up not staying is because my younger sister was living with me at the time. And
Mm.
somehow I woke up to the fact that I couldn't let her see this that it had gotten that bad. But
Yeah.
he called me, he tried to convince me, don't tell anybody. If you tell somebody, it'll be harder for us to get back together. Alicia, after I was in New York at my first job, he called, found me, tried to get back with me over the years. I heard from him 30
Wow.
years later. Like, it was over. I heard from him 30 years later. Can't we be friends again? I was like, are you kidding me?
My
So
friends don't do that to me.
I was like, why would I want to be your friend? Could you give me one reason? After
One
30
reason.
years, clearly I was detached. But
Yeah.
that scar is still there. Scars don't,
Yeah.
they may heal, but they don't go away.
Mm-hmm.
The blessing, the turning point for me was that my sister was there and I had to
Yeah.
pivot because I couldn't show her the worst of me, the lost
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Um, for you, actually, we're already so deep in it. I just want to make sure if anybody who has joined who doesn't know, you hear what we're talking about, but let me tell you who we're talking to. First of all, you are listening to Dream Leapers with Harriet Cole here on WBAI in New York City. That's 99.5 FM and everywhere online at WBAI.org. Folks, we just jumped all the way in with my guest, Alicia Reeves, who is a powerhouse. She's got a podcast called Got Value, and where she's really harvesting gems of wisdom from people who are exploring how to uh, how to cultivate value in their lives and to recognize it when it's there. But what she's talking to us about right now is what happened before she understood her value. Being the victim of domestic violence, I just shared a story from my college days, which, I talk about a little bit, and I just thought I should share it, Alicia, since you are so candid, because I know people look at me and they're like, that didn't happen to you. Yeah, it did. Yeah, it
Yes,
did.
it did.
It
Yeah.
did. And nobody helped. And I think that this reality that when you're in situations like that, you have to help yourself.
Yes.
You
You
have
have
to
to
help
choose
yourself.
you.
You have to choose you. So what happened for you? Because you stayed after
Mhm.
he beat you up and you lost the first child. He
Yeah.
took you to Jamaica as a makeup trip, and
Yeah.
here comes your daughter. And I know she's a
Yeah.
blessing, but at tremendous expense. At what point was it too much?
At the point when I had planned my suicide, so I had decided that I was going to take my life January 2013.
Wow.
My mother had lost a child when I was 8, and it took her mine, and it took her a really, really long time to get back. And because I was the oldest, it meant I had to take care of everything. So I took care of me and my siblings, and I made sure everything and everybody was okay. But I knew what it had done to her, and I didn't want her to have that experience with me, knowing that I was going to take my life. I had totaled 6 cars at that point. Y'all don't laugh. I used
Ooh,
to be a terrible driver. Oh, I used
ooh,
to be such a bad driver.
ooh,
Um, but I had totaled 6 cars at that point, and I knew that if I took my life in a car accident, that the insurance company wouldn't question the payout because I had a $500,000 life insurance policy on my person at that time. And so I had a living will that I had created, and I had made my best friend the executor of it. I'm a planner, y'all. If you haven't noticed, I used to work as a project manager in corporate America. So I had planned this thing out. I was going to take my life by running my SUV off the overpass for the
mm.
expressway going from Fort Lauderdale to Miami. If anyone
I
is
mean,
from
this was a
South Florida,
serious plan.
I was very serious. I was done.
What,
My
did you already have
ex-husband,
your daughter at that point?
yes, my daughter was 2.
Oh,
My ex-husband would tell me, because he's brilliant, one of the most brilliant men I've ever met. And he would tell me he wanted our daughter to be like anyone except for me, because I was all these negative, mean, cruel things. He would torture me by he would take divorce papers and sit them on the edge of the kitchen counter, and every time we get in an argument, he tapped them or tell me he was just going to divorce me and leave me. It was like mental warfare. It was
mm,
cruel, simply because, again, this is where too we have to take self-responsibility. I am not at all absolving him for what he did, but I am honoring and acknowledging the fact that I made a choice to choose someone who I knew could never choose me simply because he did not know how to choose himself. He didn't
mm,
love him, so there was no way he was ever going to be able to love me. And so by me agreeing to stay, I have to take some self-responsibility. And I am not saying that, oh, it's the woman's fault. That's not what I'm saying. I am saying, though, we all make choices. And to every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. And my choices netted me the results that I was getting.
Mm.
So I had decided I was going to take my life. I went home to spend time with my mother in December of 2012 because I was going to be out of here January 2013. I
Right.
went home to tell my mother goodbye without telling her what my plan was. So I was going to do all the things that she loved that I hated. I was going to go to the Goodwill with her and spend time with her and go to church with her every night, which was a lot for me at the time.
I
And
bet.
one of the nights I went to a church service and I met a young woman who looked like death. I felt like death, but on the outside, everything looked great. I drove a luxury vehicle. I had a husband who was gorgeous on the outside. He was brilliant. We had just built a house. We were, we chose the tiles and the this and the that. I had gotten like 3 promotions in 1 year. So I'm making more money than my mother had ever seen at her age, at my young age. I wasn't even 30 yet. And so all these things on the outside looked phenomenal. On the inside, I felt like walking death and I was counting down the time until I got to escape this life.
And what happened? What was the turning point?
When I saw the young lady who looked like how I felt after the service, I asked her, "Can I help you?" I had no clue what I was asking for. But my mother had always said, if you're ever feeling bad about yourself, help someone else, and seeing
That's
them
it.
smile will make you
That
smile.
is the secret sauce right there.
So she looked at me and she's like, "Well, what do you want?" And I'm like, "Babe, even if I liked you, you're not my type. I really do just want to help you. If you will allow me." I said, "I work as a project manager in corporate America, so I'm really, really good at taking things from your head to your hand. So if you let me, I can help you transform your life because it looks like you need help." And she said, "Well, okay, yeah, what I got to do?" I said, "Well, first, let me take you home because I need to figure out where you are so we can create where you want to be." And so, in the process of doing all that, I found out that she was a foster kid. She had aged out of foster care. She didn't have a place to live. She had 2 children. She too was in an abusive relationship. Her arm was bandaged because he had just thrown her through glass, and she had cut up her arm. So I knew what that experience felt like, and to also do it with a child. And so within 6 months, mind you, my plan was to take my life
You were going
in
to be gone
January.
in a couple
I
weeks,
was
right?
out of there. I created a program for her and I named it Life After Foster Care.
Mm.
Because what I had realized is what she was missing was a lot of the tools and principles and lessons that your parents or your guardians teach you. But because she had been
Yes.
shuffled around so much, she missed that. And so when I created the program, and I did it in like a week or so, when I created the program, I looked at it and I was like, oh, this can be something. She ignited a spark in me called purpose.
Mm.
I didn't know that that was the thing that I was missing. That is why no matter how many times I said, "Oh, I like me" or "I love me," I couldn't lock into it and fully engaged because I had not yet been introduced or discovered what my purpose was. And what
Sure.
she introduced me to was my ability to transform people through the creation of programs. It
Beautiful.
changed my whole life, changed my entire life.
You're making a point that I just want to punctuate right now because it's so important. I, my mother, my grandmother, my father taught me the exact same lesson. When you are feeling down, when you're feeling broken, be in service to somebody else. And
Yes.
when you're in that position, that is probably the last thing that you're thinking you want to do. You're like, are you kidding me?
The
I just need
last.
somebody to help me. You're telling me to help somebody else? That is not what I have in mind right now. And
Yeah.
I shared that lesson with another friend of mine a couple years ago, a man, very good, close friend of mine, who was down, down, down.
Mhm.
Probably, I don't know whether he was suicidal, but he was close.
Yeah.
Everything is every his heart was stripped open, and he didn't know what to do next. And
Yeah.
I said, well, why don't you find somebody you can help? Just go help somebody else. And
Somebody.
he had that attitude of, seriously, Harriet, are you kidding me? And then
I'm busy right
apparently,
now. I'm trying to
you
figure out my
listen, yeah,
life.
yeah, what? Like, why that? And so everybody who
Yes.
is listening to us, understand that it may seem counterintuitive. If you are down, 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 you feel like there is no hope. The
Yeah.
light is out. The flame is extinguished. That is when you look around and see, how can you be of service?
How?
That service, just pure service, helping someone else, reignites that inner flame. It
It
does. And
does.
it can be transformative. And look, it saved your life, Alicia.
My
And
entire life.
look at all the things that you have done subsequently. So let's
Yeah.
talk before we leave the relationship, because it's one thing to for the light to come on again. It's
Hmm.
another thing to leave.
Absolutely.
So, how challenging was it for you to leave? Because again, you have a kid, so he's never fully gone.
No,
So,
no, not at all.
how how
Um,
how were you able to leave that relationship?
Long story short, I created that program. I incorporated, instead of taking my life in January, I incorporated my first nonprofit in January.
Mm,
Within, I want to say, 90 days to 6 months, we were sponsored by UPS. We had partnerships with the Miami Marlins, the City of Miami Gardens,
mm,
Molina Healthcare, the largest foster care agency in the state of Florida, 3 to 6 months.
wow.
We had worked with a number of youth, and it caught the attention of one of the commissioners in Miami. They were doing an event during Art Basel, and Grey Goose was the sponsor. And
Mhm.
they decided to honor me for my work working with foster youth. Um, it was a surreal moment. They had an artist come in and created this handcrafted award. And in order to receive the award, I had my then husband, but now ex husband, take our daughter for the weekend so that I could focus in on that. He brought her back that weekend, and the award was hanging behind me in our formerly shared home. And he saw the award, and he said, "You think you're all that, but you're really a piece of ish." And then he jumped at me because he was so angry with me. He jumped at me to punch me, and my daughter stepped in between us, and she said, "Daddy, don't talk to my mommy like that. Get out. You gotta go. Do not talk to my mommy that way."
Wow.
She's literally a couple days away from being 3. Mind
Mm,
you, she could speak. She's been articulate since she was 1, speaking in full sentences, fully expressing her thoughts, her needs, her wants. She still does that. Uh, but to see her step in front of me
mm,
to protect me as a 2-year-old,
mm,
I'm like, she's got more gumption than I have at 2. And at my big age,
mhm,
I think if she can do it, I can too.
mm. That's
And
beautiful.
that was December of the same year that I said I was going to take my life, which was
Right.
2013. And I decided that this will never be my story again. I get to choose goodness because there is a choice. Behind me, I have an award
Absolutely.
because I have chosen to serve and to live a life that makes me feel good from the inside out and that allows me to effectuate change in other people. There's that life, or there's the life where my daughter has to push
Defend
her
you.
dad. Yeah. Like,
Wow.
this isn't it. There is a choice. There will come a time where there is a fork in the road where you will have to make a decision. Who will I become? And it is not a one time thing. You will consistently have to make
Yes.
the choice of who will I become? Who will I be? What does my life look like now? What do I want it to look like? How will the choices and decisions that I make today help to bring about the results that I'm looking to bring about? And I chose the life that was behind that award, not the
Yes.
past life, but that life that veered towards me living
That
out my
honored life.
purpose.
That
Yes, I
honored
chose the
life.
life that honored life. And that was
That's
it. There was
beautiful.
no going back. There was no, oh, let's talk about it. Let's work it out. I was done. I was done.
Wow. Hey guys, you're listening to Dream Leapers with Harriet Cole here on WBAI in New York City. That's 99.5 FM and everywhere online at WBAI.org. You know, I often say how grateful I am that we can be connected online because that means wherever we are, we can tune in. And Alicia is tuning in from Atlanta. As you know, I'm in Harlem and we can just be wherever we are and be together.
Yeah.
I am so grateful for that. You know, we are still in the month of January, the beginning of 2022. And Alicia's been talking about, hey, at the beginning of the year, we have a lot of choices. Back in 2013, she was contemplating the choice of taking her life because life seemed so grim. We are in a moment now where we are claiming life. We are claiming possibility. We are claiming our dreams. We're claiming the opportunity, the blessing to be here and use this moment to the best of our ability and to recognize that it is a choice. Every day we are making choices all day long. Are we choosing our greatness? Are we choosing to recognize what's good inside of us and to nurture that so that we can be the great gift to the world that God meant for us to be? You know, what
Yeah.
Alicia described in her darkest hour, choosing to be of service. And what happened? The floodgates of goodness opened. Her creativity helped her to help this one woman and then create a charity that would help so many other people who had been in foster care and needed TLC that they weren't getting. You don't know what is going to happen when you surrender to the greatness within and to that connection that I understand is a connection to the divine. I don't care what religion you are. I do believe that there's a divine force that's bigger than me, that's bigger than you, but that we are connected to that divine force if we pay attention and listen to the voice inside. So that's why Dream Leapers exists. WBAI exists to tell the truth to all of us, to empower us to live a progressive and honest life. And we exist because of you, because of the family that listens and supports. We have no ads, but we do need support in order to keep the lights on and to keep our tower in Times Square our own. And we've done a great job, by the way, of donating back so long ago in 2021 to the Tower Fund so that we are now up to date and we're looking to raise more money for that. For those who don't know, that literally the tower that has our signal in it so that you can hear this show is in Times Square, very expensive neighborhood in New York, and we have to pay to keep that tower ours. So we are asking for you to make any contribution of any amount to the Tower Fund. And you can do that by calling 212-209-2950. You call, you say you want to make a contribution to the Tower Fund, or honestly, a contribution just to WBAI. We need you. It is through your dollars and mine and all of us who are part of the WBAI family that we stay on the air now for the 62nd year, which is amazing. We lived through COVID. How many businesses died in COVID? WBAI is still strong because of you, because of the family that appreciates this radio station. So, again, the number is 212-209-2950. You can also go online at give to the numeral 2 WBAI.org to make your contribution. You can become a BAI buddy, which is making a monthly contribution of any, $25, $50, $100, whatever you can afford. We all know that a monthly check helps to keep the phone on, helps to keep the electricity on, all those things. It's true for us personally and also true for WBAI. So please give generously as we begin 2022. Let's make the choice together to ensure that our beloved radio station remains on the air with the strongest signal, reaching everyone who wants to be reached. Uh, at 99.5 FM and, of course, also at WBAI.org. Thank you in advance for supporting us. This is, I guess, we're moving into my fourth year of hosting Dream Leapers on WBAI. It's such a privilege to have this time to talk to people like Alicia Reeves. And we're going back to her right now so we can learn more about her incredible story of personal transformation and then choosing to continue to serve and help to transform so many other people. So Alicia, you made that pivot. Thanks.
Hmm.
Your daughter helped you. Our children just are amazing. And I know
Yeah.
that I have a daughter too. Amazing. You
Yes.
made the pivot and then you had worked in corporate America. You've now
Hmm.
created this not for profit. Uh, what did you do after that? Because I know that you have created a number of entities that serve people and that capture stories and share them so that we can keep this cycle of greatness uh, in through the media. So
Yeah.
tell us some of the things that you've been doing after you stepped into your greatness.
Absolutely. So I think about the year 2013, and for me, that was such a pivotal year, primarily because on my birthday that same year, um, my amazing ex husband informed me that he'd no longer cover the expenses for our new house and that I would have to figure it out. And that I would have to start paying the mortgage on June 1st, even though I wasn't prepared. So the house
And
almost went
when is your birthday?
May 16th. Um,
So this is a few couple weeks later.
No, he told me on my birthday. He flew into the private surprise party that I was having with friends and informed me that if I didn't agree to come back, he would no longer pay the mortgage. And this isn't a bash him session. This is just what happened.
Just the truth,
um,
right?
yeah, it's just what happened. I honor him for the role that he played in helping me to discover my purpose. So I was able to, I said, okay, well, I've got to figure some things out because now I've got to make money. My nonprofit, although yes, nonprofits make money, I wasn't building it for that. And so I said, okay, well, let me create a for profit company. And I was like, well, what am I good at? There's a parable in the Bible that talks about a woman who, her and her son were near death. And there was a prophet who came to her house and asked her, well, what do you have in your house? And she said, well, I don't have anything. He's like, well, you got to have something. What do you have in your house? He's like, oh, well, I got a little oil. I'm gonna make a cake. Me and my son gonna eat it, and we're gonna die because it was a famine. And he said, well, no, take what you have in your home, put it in the pouring position, and just keep it that way. And so I said, well, what do I have in my house? And by house, I mean my person. What do I have in me that I can use to create money? And so I said, well, I got a degree in marketing. I've never used it. What if I use it? Let's try that. So I created a marketing company, and our first client out of the gate was Grey Goose. And that same Miami commissioner who had noticed the work that I was doing with my nonprofit. And so she brought me on to curate an event during Art Basel that had Kanye West, Will Smith. We had all BET was one of our partners, Miami Swim Week. And so I created this large scale event, literally my first time doing so with my sister. And I was like, I think I might have something here. And so I
Mm.
created that business with my ability to build game changing, powerful relationships. I was able to build relationships with some key integral people that led me to working with Zendaya Coleman, Soledad O'Brien, curating and developing events for Verizon, then speaking for and working with Bank of America, like all of these opportunities because I was kind of given an ultimatum, come back, I'll pay. If you leave, you're gonna have to figure it out. So I was like, well, okay, I'll figure it out for 200, Alex. Like, I'll figure it out. And so I then too was taking leaps and allowing myself to dream. And then from there, I ran that business for 8 years. And then during the pandemic, I asked myself, if I died today, would I or can I say that I have lived full out? I have operated completely in my purpose, and I'm dying empty. And the resounding answer was no.
Mm,
It was no. Like I started that business because I had to,
yes.
not because I had tapped into something that I knew I needed to curate and develop. And it had served its purpose very, very well. But now, what did it look like for me to dream again, to go after the bigger dream, to trust myself, to leap again? And
Hmm.
so I started the process to close it down. And I took a huge leap on myself because I am my daughter's primary provider. If I don't provide it, she does not get it.
Hmm.
And so my family came in like a tribe, which is why your tribe and your village is so important. They came
Absolutely.
in and said, "Hey, I'll support you during this time. Don't worry about paying any of your bills. I got you. You build this new business. You build RGLP Group, one that is built from not just your passion, but also built in and on purpose. Build that. And then once you make it, we already know you're going to give back. So you focus on that. We'll take care of everything there so
How
that you
beautiful.
can live in and on purpose." They have provided that opportunity, and I can't even fully articulate the opportunities that have come simply because I was willing to dream again and then leap once I figured out what that dream was.
Well, I mean, look, you couldn't be a better marketer for Dream Leapers, girlfriend. That's what it's all about. That's what I preach. Telling people first you have to access the dream. And sometimes it
Yes.
means you have to make a hard pivot from what you were
Mhm.
doing to what's next. And of course, I'm never recommending that people are reckless in that. But when your heart tells you it is time to do something else, you have to
Yeah.
figure out how to do it. It requires mustering a tremendous amount of courage.
Yes.
When I started my business so many years ago, I had a fantastic career at Essence Magazine. Uh, I often say I've had 39 lives because that was a long time ago that I left Essence. And my father was like, "What? You doing what? You starting a bit? What? You know, are you crazy?" And I wasn't crazy. It was time. It was
Yeah.
time to
Hmm.
do what my heart had told me years before. I literally had
Hmm.
a dream, Alicia, that I had a business many years before I had it. I woke up in the middle of the night, typed out everything that was in my dream, and printed it on a thermal printer. You probably don't even know what that is. Where
No.
you tear because I'm much older than you. Where you tear the sides of the paper off. It's old school, and I put it on my refrigerator and it yellowed for years. I didn't pay attention. And one day, the friction inside that was telling me, it's time, it's time, it's time,
Yeah.
it's time. And I often tell people when you are pointing the finger at someone else and saying, this is your fault, it's your fault, whatever's going on, that is an indication that it's time to wrestle that finger around, point it at yourself, and ask, what is my role in this? What am I supposed to be doing now?
Yes.
What it how can I own this moment rather than blaming somebody else and move forward with my life? And for me, I had to pivot. And plenty of people thought I was insane, including my father. But
Hmm.
I had a book contract. So I had the promise of a few dollars and I left and started
Yeah.
my business. And that was more than 25 years ago. So I know that it's possible. What you're saying,
Yes.
not only was it possible, but you did it. And it's working. And it has required you have moved around. So not only have you pivoted and started another business, you have physically moved. So talk about these
Yeah.
transitions that you've gone through. And actually, before you do that, because I'm only going to do this one more time before this hour is up and it's jumping, it's almost up. So everybody, I just want to remind you, We are talking to Alicia Reeves, a dynamic young woman who her actual age defies age because she's lived so many lives already, and really from darkness into light. She's building a life and a career that helps so many people, which is why I wanted her to be here on Dream Leapers as we begin 2022. And she's going to tell us about that in just a moment. I'm reminding you for the last time of this hour, you're listening to Dream Leapers with Harriet Cole. We are here on WBAI, and we are here because of you. It is your generosity, your contributions that make it possible for us to be here in this covenant together, to learn and grow, to trust, to be in a safe space, to be with guests who are willing to pour their heart out. I mean, I thank you, Alicia, so much for being so honest, because it's showing people what they can be. And it takes complete honesty, laying your soul bare in order to get back up and move forward. So if you agree, those of you who are listening, that this is important and valuable, please make a contribution to ensure that WBAI stays here for 60 more years. You can call us at 212 209 2950. Call after this broadcast so you don't miss any more of Alicia. We're only on for a few more minutes. 212 209 2950. You can also go online at give2, the numeral 2, WBAI.org. We invite you to be generous in the same way that Alicia told us how generous she was when she was in that dark moment and she said, let me help somebody else. And it saved her life. This is real. This Dream Leapers is not about fluff, y'all. It's real. We want to save our lives and create space to allow our greatness to be that leap so that we can be the
Yes.
absolute best that we can be, and know that one leap is not all that's in you.
No.
There are many leaps. Like I said, I've had 39 lives. I've done so many things and continue to do so many things. And when I've completed one thing, I move on to the next thing. I believe in meditation to keep tapping into the voice inside that tells me this is what is next. So if you are part of this Dream Leapers family, please support us. 212 209 2950. Please make a contribution today in the month of January that pledges your love, commitment, and support to our beloved radio station. Okay, Alicia, in the time that we have left, I want you to tell us what you are doing now and how you were able to navigate that.
Absolutely. So I'm a firm believer in yes and your life. I call it the
Mm,
yes and phenomenon. If you've ever done improv, they one person starts the story and then they say yes and then the other folks have to keep the story going. So I
yes.
decided that I was going to yes and my life. I was going to do that to my life. I was going to say yes, I can be a person who, even when full of fear, fearlessly go after the things that I knew my spirit and my soul was telling me to do. Yes. And I was also going to figure out how to love me so completely and so fully that anyone who did not do that would automatically dismiss themselves. Yes. And I was also going to be a really good mother, understanding that perfection is not my goal, but ensuring that I was spending quality, intentional time with her so that she always knew she has a fighter in her corner who is ready for whatever when it comes to making sure that she has what she needs. Yes, and I am going to enjoy and have amazing friendships and beautiful professional relationships. What does it look like to yes and your life? The last 6 months of my life have been full of transition, from health issues with my mother and my grandmother, to moving from New York to Florida, from Florida to Atlanta. All of the transition, what I did is I told myself, no matter what happens outside of you, you get to determine what happens inside of you. And if
Indeed.
I can keep my focus on what it is that I envision, the only way I won't get it is if I die. But as long as there is breath that is coming in and out of these lungs, I am presented with another opportunity to, like you said, choose the life that honors life,
Yes.
period. And that is what I have been doing. And then I am now showing executives and emerging professionals how to do that same thing, how to tap into the essence of who they are, identify their intrinsic value, and then align their own personal purpose to the work that they do. You don't
Beautiful.
always have to leave your organization. You can tap into who am I at my core? What ignites me? What is my personal mission and personal purpose? How does that align to the organization that I work within? How does that align in the work that I do outside of the organization that I work in? How do I live a more fulfilled and on purpose life so that when it is my time to take my last breath, because we are perishable items, and it sounds harsh, but we are
It's
perishable
true.
items. We are not here for an infinite amount of time. But so when it is your time to transcend to the next realm, you can fully say, oh, I live this thing
Mm,
fully, wholly, loudly, boldly. I lived it and I loved it, and I'm happy and it's time to go.
that's beautiful. And you do that work with businesses and individuals, and also you communicate through your podcast. So tell us about your
Mhm.
podcast.
So, the Got Value podcast, I wanted to start having intimate conversations with those who folks deem as successful and as leaders. I wanted to have conversations beyond what people consider their success. Who are you, the person? How have you overcome the things that have been challenging for you? How do you stay tapped in and in tune with who you are and then handle the things that might be complex or might be challenging for you? What does that look like? I too believe in telling stories in order to help folks grow and move along. And so that's what I get to do on the Got Value podcast and on the Triggered AF podcast. I get to talk very real and very bluntly about the things that are difficult for us, the things that literally trigger us, so that you
Mm,
can identify what triggers you, so that you can go and get some therapy or go to a coach or go to a healer to deal with that. You don't have to stay triggered. You don't
mhm.
have to stay in a constant, because that constant frustration, it keeps you inflamed. You don't have to stay that way. You can make a different choice.
And didn't you start your podcast in the space of COVID, in the space of
Yeah.
quarantine?
Yes, yes. The Triggered AF, when I started it with my college really sister friend, we started it in 2021, January 2021,
Okay.
still at the heart of COVID.
Yes.
And we're at over 22,000 downloads now. With
Beautiful.
we haven't spent over $100 in ads
That's
because
amazing.
we've been so intentional about, hey, what is it that is triggering us? If we're
Hmm.
getting triggered, we're all connected.
That's right.
Somebody else might be getting triggered too. Let's heal ourselves and help other folks heal too at the same time. That same thing. How can I help someone else while also helping me?
It's powerful. I ask people regularly, what did you do during COVID that you want to talk about? Because COVID has been so long. There are lots of things that have occurred, but
Oh,
for
yeah.
you to have created two podcasts where you are talking to folks, sharing inspiration, is really something. And I commend you for uplifting yourself and others, and sharing the good word. So as we are about to leave, what word do you want to share with the listeners of Dream Leapers that they can take with them as they walk in 2022?
No matter who you are, where you are, or how you've started, we all have value. And the greatest gift that you could ever gift to yourself is to discover exactly what that is and live boldly in it.
Mm, that's beautiful. And I look forward to continuing to work with you because, as I mentioned at the top, well, this year I'm working as director of programming for this wonderful online community, Kahila.com. And Alicia is one of our new experts. And so this is a community of corporate women who are looking to live and grow. And as you were mentioning, You can live your dreams and work in any field, including corporate America.
Indeed.
You don't have to squash your dreams because you work for somebody else. These are things that are important for people to know, because sometimes they make the mistake of thinking the job has to be everything. If anything is everything, that's putting you in a bad place. What is it? Know your value. The value has to start inside, right, Alicia?
Yes. Yes.
Know your value. When you know your value and own it, you can navigate all kinds of spaces and stay true to you, stay strong, and fulfill whatever those goals and responsibilities are that you have. So, Alicia, tell us what the podcasts are so that people can listen.
Yes, you can go to gotvaluenation.com to listen to the Got Value podcast. You can go to triggeredafpodcast.com to listen to the Triggered podcast. And then you can stay connected with me everywhere at Alicia Reeves.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be with you. Can't wait to see what this year has to offer. Thank you, Alicia.
Thank
Wow. Thank you, everyone, for spending this action packed hour with me. We went deep and came out glowing. And isn't that what we love to do here at Dream Leapers on WBAI? Thank you to Alicia Reese. Until next time, have a great day and make it count.